The entire point of science and the scientific method is an attempt to eliminate the human bias for as much as possible when trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, and it turns out that's not true and it doesn't work. Science
No, it
doesn't
turns
exist
out that
independently of
people
humans.
often fail at it because it's very difficult.
Always. They
Because
always fail
the
at it.
natural state of a human, which I'm sure, since we're talking about nature here, is to be a biased individual.
Name me the person who is unbiased.
There is no one that's unbiased. That's
right.
the
So
point.
no one can do science as you're envisaging it.
No, because that's the whole point of doing science and things like double-blind studies. It's to try to remove yourself from as much of it as possible.
Yeah, but it's not working.
No, I agree with you. That's not going to work 100% of the time.
It's not working any percent of the time.
What? It's not working any. How are we talking right now?
Well, because engineers do trial and error.
Oh,
scientists don't invent things.
Scientists? Wait. So like researchers?
Engineers aren't scientists.
And what? So okay. So scientists didn't come up with the
engineers
idea,
have existed since the dawn of time. We're still using in Europe. We're still using Roman aqueducts, but they weren't scientists.
Okay, so we're coming up with a distinction between scientists and engineers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because there is one.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've got to understand, right? Science is technical. It's all theoretical, whereas engineering is practical. It's done through trial and error. And this is why I'll send you Oakeshott's essay on rationalism in politics, right?
I mean, Sargon is kind of destroying you here, Sitch. I don't really know.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait. Who? Okay. How did the internet come to be? Explain this to me.
Tim Berners-Lee.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't sit there with theories. He practiced.
He didn't use the theories and understandings that would be required for this technology. He just said, I'm coming to this like from a blank individual. I'm going to rub two fucking stones together and create
what was the name of the guy
in the internet
who invented the electric light bulb? James Watts?
Thomas Edison.
I don't know.
Right?
Well, Thomas Edison stole it. He didn't.
Do you think he knew anything about the theory of light or electricity
idea.
when he did that? No,
I don't know.
We do know he didn't. He didn't know anything about those, but he sat there and tested things, and through trial and error, got something to work. Because that's what engineers do. Right? They don't need to know the theory of something to be able to make something work. Right, and now, right, you should see the SAGE modeling for the COVID pandemic. Right, it is so wrong. The theorists are disconnected from reality. Mm-hmm. They are not right about reality.
Sitch, right? I had to update our moron, imbecile, idiot chart here. I added scientist below idiot just so we have it at our discretion at any time.
We should have science, anti-scientist, anti-science. Really?
No. We have moron, high grade imbecile, medium grade imbecile, low grade imbecile, idiot, and then scientist. Like right
the problem.
I'm just thinking like, so the people that invented the satellites that circle our planet, they didn't use any science. It was just engineering. They were just iterating. So engineering.
I'm sure they did use some science.
There's no science.
I'm not saying
no scientists work at NASA to develop satellites or the technologies used to get to space.
Again, there are engineers at NASA that develop these things.
You're right. It's just engineers. There's no scientists involved.
Sitch,
come on.
I'm not saying there's no room for theory. Right. Mm-hmm. There is room for technical expertise, but at this point, technical expertise has become the only valid form of expertise that our society recognizes, and that's not correct. That's only half the story.
What are you basing this off of? What do you mean?
What would you accept as evidence? Would you accept the decline of apprenticeships? Like the fact that everyone is now supposed to go to fucking university and sit there with their books and learn from theory and blah, 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 rather than actually like working with a master and practicing.
You're creating a framework.
Apprenticeships
very much
are scientific. What are you talking about?
No, they're not scientific.
Are you saying like if someone takes an electrician apprenticeship, they're not engaging in something that's like a science?
They're not a scientist. They're an engineer.
But electricity is dealing with science, right? I mean,
no, your theory about electricity is a scientific theory, but the electrician isn't practicing science when he's welding.
This is what you're doing, and I don't think this is fair to the concept. You're creating this dichotomy where you're like, well, if a person, all they do is they work with theory and they've never done anything physical, I'm going to label them a scientist. And anyone that's ever done anything physical or created something, I'm going to label them an engineer.
No, yeah, well, I agree. That's not what I'm saying. That's what it sounds like. There are scientists who, of course, do things, right? And so they're not like, purely theoretical. Though some are, obviously. But they're not purely theoretical, and they've got practical knowledge of how to conduct experiments and how to do certain things. And of course, engineers spend X amount of time, studying theory as well, blah, 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 right? So obviously, it's not just all of one and none of the other. But at this point, we've got the problem that the scientists are entering into the political realm, and they have no practical experience in the political realm. So all they can bring is theory, and the theory is bollocks.
So complain about that. Don't complain about the idea of science itself. That's where I don't. This is
but the idea of science itself doesn't exist separately to the humans that practice it.
I understand that, but you can't just say, if someone comes up, this is the gun argument. Okay, someone invents a gun and you say, oh, I like this gun. I can use it to hunt stuff. I can use it to protect myself. Someone uses it to go kill an innocent person. You don't say throw the gun away. You say stop people from using it improperly.
Yeah, okay. And I'm not saying throw the ability to
You're saying throw
away.
Science away.
No, I'm not. I'm saying we need to stop. Like, we need to stop shooting people in the street, because that's what we're doing at the moment.
I'm on board with not shooting people in the street.
Right.
Sure.
Okay. And so that begins with us recognizing that science has gone too far. And progressive ideology is a facet of that. This is why you get like people like Jangles who are just.
This has nothing to do with
Jangles is anti-science. The problem with Jangles is Jangles
science
is
like a fucking religion.
He pretends he does.
Yeah, that's why you said
I don't
it
think
exactly.
it's a pretense. I mean, you can see him like he gets so like itchy when you start talking about science in a way that he's not comfortable. He's, I've got to study. It's like, yeah, I know you do. You've literally got, loads of biblical texts.
Science is not even remotely responsible for this. Science is the framework that people want to accept ideas in currently. So they're just trying to force whatever they want through that framework of science.
And when that framework becomes unsuitable to the task, what then?
Well, here's the great thing, is that if you actually look at the science, what they're saying doesn't follow the science. It's all bullshit.
It's pseudoscience.
Right. So science can never be wrong.
That
science can never be wrong, is what we're saying.
No, but that's why it shows you that the framework, the tool of science works, is because it shows that the things that they're saying are bullshit.
Okay, but can you not see how you've created a paradigm here where science is never wrong? Science is never not the answer.
It's one of the, I don't know there's no better answer so far for human beings in terms of trying to discover these
science is not making people happy.
Science isn't designed to make
science
people happy.
is making people happy.
Well, then it's the wrong tool for the job, isn't it? Because the question of the modern era is happiness.
People should not be using quote unquote science to try to make people happy, because that's not what it was used.
I think science
I shouldn't
is
use a
making
hammer to cut down a tree. I should use a fucking saw. I'm not going to complain about the hammer and say this hammer sucks. I can't cut this tree down with it.
No, dude. Right. Okay, great. We're finally on the same page. I agree completely. Right. Science is good for solving problems, except for human problems. Right. That, like,
what do you mean?
The sort of emotional problems.
Death is a human problem, and science is pretty good at solving that.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean,
people still die.
Yeah, but people live a lot longer, and they don't.
Okay, no.
There are a lot of things that people died of 100 years ago that they no longer die of.
That's true.
So I mean,
sure, but people still die. Right?
Yeah, they do.
Like,
but sometimes science saves them. Modern medicine saves them. So I'm just saying,
science
how can you
prolongs
not say,
a person's life?
Like video games are a product of scientific research. You don't think that makes people happy?
Why? What scientist invented video games?
Well, who did invent video games?
An engineer.
Okay, so engineers.
Someone who was trial and erroring it. He didn't sit there with a theory.
Science
that's not
is
true.
trial and error.
What
do you think? Why do you think they call it? Why do you think Sargon? Why do you think they call it drug trials? Why do you think they call it that? What is that's such a strange thing to call testing a drug out, a drug trial, a double-blind trial. What do you think they're doing? It's trial and error. It's the same thing you're saying.
Yeah, okay.
That's what science is. Science is trial and error.
Yeah, but what you're implying that theory comes first.
Falsification is actually setting up an experiment to look for the error.
Sure, but like the theory doesn't come first, right?
Yes,
it's experience in the world. No, of course not. It's experience in the world that comes first, and then theory is derived from that.
you understand engineers use science, right? Like an engineer goes to engineering school and they learn about all this stuff. You have to learn the underlying science, and that's how they know what to do to iterate on things in the directions they're iterating. They're not just throwing darks in the dart here.
They often are, though. Right, and this is the
sometimes thing. They are. Sure,
no. You are assuming the only legitimate method of knowledge gathering is technical knowledge.
No, I'm not.
Right, the Romans didn't do this.
You're assuming.
Right?
No, listen.
The Romans didn't do this, and we're still using their aqueducts. We're still using their bridges.
Let me have a second here, because this was a chief conflict between Academic Agent and his audience and me, because I said, what Academic Agent was bringing up was from some tired old book, and they were like books can't have knowledge. I think you can look for knowledge anywhere. Knowledge can be delivered in Revelation, knowledge can be delivered in history, knowledge can be delivered in a lot of different areas. But science is the way that you verify that knowledge for truth value against the natural world. So my contention with people pulling stuff out of old books and acting like it's been verified when it often hasn't been verified is that we do need to do this verification process, or we don't know if that information is actually true in a factual materialist sense.
But what you've just said there is science is not a source of knowledge.
Science is a source of verification of knowledge.
Right, I agree.
Yes.
Yep, sure. But it's not a source of knowledge.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. But the point, Sitch, that I was trying to get to, right, is that science can't make us happy. Science can't teach us what it is to live a good life.
Someone in the chat pointed out that these divisions in schools are called applied sciences for a reason. Okay.
Yeah, engineering is an applied science, I believe.
This is such a weird framing. I don't understand why you're framing things this
way.
Well,
the reason I'm framing it this way is because it allows us to get to the heart of the issue. We're trying to use the wrong tool to solve the problem that has been created by the tool we're using.
See, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear what is the right tool.
Okay, but I just want to be super precise here. Okay, because you can say that in terms of discovering humans' happiness, science isn't the right tool, and we can have an argument about that. But I just want to be clear, you can have that without throwing out the idea that like science is an important tool for human beings to understand the reality of the world they live in, right?
Sure.
Okay. So I made that clear. Okay. So if science can't make us happy, what's making us happy? How do we determine
that's the question, isn't it? Like, I'm not saying I've got all of the answers here, and I'm going to sit there and reel off, well, this is what mankind needs to do. I'm not saying anything like that. What I'm saying is we're very much like committed to the thing that is making us unhappy without realizing or being even aware that that's the thing that's making us unhappy. And we really have to start thinking about that.